and welcome to episode 85 of the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
My name is Ian.
And yes, I'm joined by Ian and his abundance of notes. Right?
I have notes.
Do you?
No,
Do you actually?
kind of, sort of. Kind of, sort of.
They're all in my head. It all works the same.
Yeah, it does.
As always, you can email us any questions or comments to contact@lifeandjoelpodcast.com. Check us on Twitter @LIGpod. We're on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, as I always forget to mention for some stupid reason. Spotify, just about everywhere else. You can check us out. So what's been going on, Ian?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we watched a movie.
Yeah, did we?
Yeah.
So we had this other podcast. Because we've done like little side things before. Like Ian had his own little series that did like 3 episodes of, and then another show that he's done like 1 episode of. But then we did like a movie and music review show. I think we did 12 episodes of that or something like that?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh no, I'm sorry. We did more than that.
Did we? Oh, 24.
We did 20 some.
So 20 some, yeah.
It was over 20. So it was called the Entertainment Now podcast, and we just kind of like would pick a movie or an album and kind of review it. And I felt like it's been like a year or so since we've done anything like that. So I figured, hey, what the hell, we'll do another one.
Right.
And
I had notes, but my phone has decided it wanted to update itself all of a sudden. So.
Well, it's all right. We can. I'm sure that your Google phone will only take like 45 minutes to. It's not really. It's an Android phone, but does Google even have?
Yeah, there's Google phones.
I thought they like dropped out because they were
Pixels or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's like their phones are designed to be cameras and nothing really more. They're not really good at much of anything else.
Yeah. So last week, I think it might not have even been last week. It might have been a couple days ago. I was thinking to myself, hey, I should probably look and see what the topics are for the next show. Mm-hmm. And so because we've got all the episodes scheduled out for the end of the year, and I think all it said on there was like movie review, and then it said pick a movie, and I was like, well, we might want to pick a movie.
Yeah, we may have been phoning that particular one in.
Well, because I figured, because we'd had some like darker topics lately.
Yes.
Because we talked about like gun control and things like that. I don't even remember what else we talked about lately, but I felt like it was we were due to kind of have a lighter episode.
Right. Yeah, because I think definitely the last 2 weeks were a little deep.
Well, last week wasn't, because we did the what would you do if you won the lotto. So I don't know. It sounded like something fun to do. So I asked Ian what movie he would like to review, and his response was,
"Let me look it up and see what's out there that we haven't seen that's accessible." And
his response was,
The Dirt, because I haven't watched it yet, and it's accessible.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
And I thought of a secondary kind of a side topic we could discuss as far as like, what we see in the films, these music films, compared to what actually happens in reality. Yeah.
So if any of you out there that don't know, The Dirt it kind of follows Motley Crue from their like inception in the early 80s, through all the crazy sex, drugs, and rock and roll stuff of the 80s, all the way through to like the height of their fame and their ultimate breakup and reformation.
I think it really kind of ends in like 97, from what I can tell based on what I've read subsequent to the film.
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, it's not
because that's when Vince Neil rejoined the band. Was in 97.
Yeah, and that was kind of the strange thing is that it really, other than like really early in the movie, I don't think they really gave you a time stamp for anything that really happened.
Just
in the movie.
Well, I mean, you kind of could based on what albums they're talking about. And they did when Nikki Sixx OD'd.
Yeah,
because that's pointed out 87, December 28th, 87. And they did do a timestamp on the screen for that.
Okay.
But you're right. But I mean, Theater of Pain came out in 85. So when they're on the tour for that was 85. When they were on tour with Ozzy, that was 84. Mm-hmm. Early 84. So
yeah. I don't know. So I guess, what were your like overall opinion of the movie? Because I might shock you with mine.
I'm going to say mixed, honestly, because, I mean, I don't really necessarily have a problem so much with the acting. I thought it was a slightly subpar, the acting overall. The best actor in the movie is the little girl, Vince Neil's daughter.
Yeah.
Because She when that part came out, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Because she was really good. He was good in those scenes.
I thought Machine Gun Kelly, for not really being an actor,
yeah,
I thought he did a really good job as Tommy Lee.
That was Machine Gun Kelly?
Yeah.
I had no
Played
idea.
Tommy Lee, yeah.
No idea. No, yeah, he did a good job. I didn't even know who he was. So.
And the one guy from Lord of the Rings played, not Lord of the Rings, shit.
I don't know.
Game of Thrones. The guy from Game of Thrones played,
Game of Thrones.
I know that, but I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
The guy from Game of Thrones played Mick Mars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. I liked him.
Yeah. I thought both of them did a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
I thought the acting was pretty decent for
It was just, I mean,
for having a group of actors that weren't like big, like name people.
I didn't want to like criticize it too much. It just, there were just some scenes where I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Some of it was pretty rough.
Yeah. And that little girl really, in the, less than 5 minutes she's on screen.
Yeah.
And she's dying. She really steals the show.
I don't even know if he was even that long. That was one of the issues I had with the movie. We'll get to that though.
That it kind of jumped over stuff. Yeah.
It glossed over the stuff that was actually would have been the depth of the movie.
Right.
Because it seemed like sorry to interrupt you real quick, but yeah, there was a lot of shallow moments in the movie.
Oh yeah, I know. I looked it up.
Go ahead and finish what you're saying. I don't want to interrupt you.
Well, just my overall thoughts of the movie. It was not one of those situations where sometimes I can watch a movie like that and it might automatically or ultimately change my opinion of certain things.
Yeah.
And overall, it didn't really necessarily change my opinion of the band.
No, because I don't think there was really anything in the movie that wasn't like
known. Or, and then we can go to what was glossed over or omitted. I did like the fact that there were certain parts where they're breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And they actually say, well, we're just not going to talk about that.
Well,
or
yeah.
we're gonna leave that part out.
I did like the fact that they tried to be upfront as much as they could with some of the omissions in the movie.
Right.
Because early on, so Doc is their manager.
Right.
And then early on in the movie, they're like, okay, well, there was also another manager,
right.
but he's not going to be in the movie.
Right.
Because I think it just made it...
Well, they would have had to delve into all the lawsuits and everything else.
Yeah, so they took the...
Which is also a complaint of mine because they leave a lot of that shit out. They've been sued so many times and they've sued so many people. It's amazing.
So the other guy, the manager that got cut from the movie was actually a lot more hands-on than Doc was.
Okay.
So they kind of took the two characters and rolled them into one and then gave most of the responsibility and most of the stuff to Doc.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of the issues I had.
He sued them and they sued him. And
yeah. And that's
their relationship didn't end very well.
No.
I mean, it ended out of everything they did. All the lawsuits they've ever had, I think all of them settled out of court. Every last one of them.
Well, most lawsuits settle out of court.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I suppose, but just the vast quantity of lawsuits
they were involved with a lot.
Yeah,
but I like that they were upfront about omitting that character, but I think they should have flipped him. If the other guy was more hands-on and had more to do with the movie, you probably should have had him in there.
Yeah.
But I guess. The other thing you have to also remember is the guy that directed the movie, which I don't have his name in front of me. The only thing he's ever directed before were Jackass movies.
Right.
So, I mean...
I can't remember his name either.
And that's... I will say that the first time I watched the movie, I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. Not great. I thought it was a decent movie. The second time I watched it, I had a much different opinion of the movie.
Right.
It was...
and I can see that because I've only watched it the one time, but it's fresh because I just watched it last night. So.
Yeah, because the second watch through, I was able to really focus more on some of the glaring issues of the movie. I mean, overall, I thought it was an enjoyable movie.
I did not like the Ozzy scene. Because
my issue...
I can't find anything that first of all, corroborates the piss part.
Well, actually, Ozzy has come out and said he doesn't remember any of that happening.
Right. Well, he wouldn't.
He wouldn't.
I mean, he's definitely not a reliable source for that stuff. But
all four of the band members have corroborated that story, though.
The ants, though. I mean, I've heard that for decades.
And the piss part.
I've never heard the piss part.
I have.
I've never heard that part. I mean, he would piss on anything. He got arrested for pissing on the Alamo, but I've never heard any story of him drinking it or licking it up off the ground.
So, but I thought,
he just came off as kind of an asshole.
Yeah,
which maybe he is. I don't know, but
in the movie, it happened at a poolside. I thought it was like outside their tour bus, though.
And that's the other thing. The ant story, which could be apocryphal still, but it's been corroborated by more than one person.
Yeah, well, because
it's happened in different places.
If you don't know the story, in the movie, Ozzy gets down off of a chair, like a lifeguard chair, and snorts ants off the ground because they were out of Coke. Right. And then pisses on the ground, then proceeds to lick up his own urine. And then I think it was Tommy Lee. Oh, it was Nicky. Pisses on the ground, goes to
lap up his own piss.
Yep, and Ozzy pushes him out of the way and laps up. Yeah. Nicky's piss. So it's an interesting scene. But like I said before, Ozzy has come out and kind of fought against any of that actually ever happening. But Ozzy in the early 80s can't fucking... He was so out of his mind on everything else.
I don't know if Ozzy at any stage of his adult life is...
Coherent,
yeah. I mean, he can probably remember certain specifics, but I think overall, it's mostly haze.
Mm-hmm. And that was kind of... I wouldn't say a recurring theme, but there were things that I noticed watching the movie that... I mean, because I was never a big Motley Crue fan, but
I was for a very short period. But I mean, that was in my youth.
Yeah, you hear these stories and you kind of hear about them over the years, and like in the movie, Tommy Lee's girlfriend keeps calling, or his fiance at the time kept calling Tommy's mother a cunt.
Yeah.
And he punches her. Well, she pushes him and he punches her.
I think he kind of slapped her more than punched her.
Okay,
but he definitely made her bleed.
It actually did happen, but it didn't happen on a tour bus. They were in a limo, and it happened. And Doc, or whoever their manager was, stopped the car and went back and helped her scoop her teeth and stuff off the ground. I mean, he really...
He must have punched her.
He really punched her, yeah. So, I mean, there's little differences like that. It's like, why change it? Why not... have them in a limo. I don't understand why that really makes sense.
The only thing I can figure is it's probably easier to get the shots.
Maybe.
Because he is, I mean, there's a lot of, and it could be that when you're in the limo, because he's not trying to, in the movie, he says, stop the bus, I'm getting this bitch off my bus. And he's pushing her towards the door. Mm-hmm. Whereas in a limo, he doesn't have that option.
Yeah,
so he looks like he looks worse because he doesn't. He just hauls off and hits her.
Oh yeah, because Tommy Lee has such a great history with women.
I'm just saying they're producers on this movie. They're not. They're okay with allowing themselves to look bad in some areas, but certain areas they're not.
The one thing I was really surprised that they didn't have in the movie, because she probably should have been. Was Pam Anderson, because they were together in 94, 95.
Yeah, but that's kind of where the movie kind of comes to an end, sort of. I mean, it as far as Tommy's story, it kind of ends with Heather Locklear.
Yeah.
And the rest is just kind of the band and then kind of getting back together, which how they got back together is not.
That's not how it happened either. No.
Right. But I don't know. Overall, if we just take it as a film about a decadent rock band, sure, it's fine.
It's a fun movie, but it's like...
movie. But if you try to analyze it as a biography of the band, I mean, granted, I may have to read the book just to see how much of the book was...
From what I understand of the book wasn't... There was more depth to the book, right, obviously, but not a whole lot more. It was basically just story after story of crazy shit. And that was kind of my issue is, a lot of these recent biopics, especially like the musical ones, there's been depth to it. There's been, obviously you've got at least with a band like Motley Crue, you've got the music videos, the interviews and stuff. So you kind of know that kind of scene, that part of the story. Right. But I was really hoping that there was more of
the behind the scenes.
Yeah. What, there's no exploration into how or what made this band one of the world's biggest in the late 80s. Right. And, and that's the kind of stuff. Take Bohemian Rhapsody, for instance.
For all its flaws, it really
went into what made that band able to do what it did and have such huge cultural impact that it did have at that time.
Right. Yeah, they didn't focus very much at all on the music itself.
No.
Whereas in, like you said, Bohemian Rhapsody was very much, the music was another character in the film. And that wasn't the case here. And I think that was definitely a missed opportunity on the part of the filmmakers. They could have really delved into that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, Motley Crue's music it's disposable rock. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
it's decent enough to enjoy, but it's not something that is going to last with you. I mean, some of it for some people will, but
yeah,
I mean overall
to this
for
day,
me,
I still like
Home Sweet Home.
No, well, I do like that song, but I just listened to the Theater Pain again not too long ago. It's got like one or two good songs on it, so it's pretty shaky.
Which Neil even says in the movie.
That's true.
He says it's got 2 good songs on it.
That's true. He did say that. But Dr. Feelgood's still a great album.
Yeah, and I still, for the most part, I still have a soft spot in my heart for their first album.
Yeah.
So, just because it's got a rough edge to it that I actually enjoy. But, and I kind of forgot where I was going with that. We were talking about the music. There is depth to the songs, to the lyrics. Nikki Sixx wrote the vast majority of the lyrics. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of him in that. You know, I mean, Dr. Feelgood, for example, is about his overdose. Kickstart My Heart is about his overdose,
which they didn't talk about at all in the movie.
Right. I mean, they did play it shortly after the overdose, after he cleaned up. But
but that's what I'm saying. There was no exploration into any of that.
Right.
You know,
and they really didn't go into detail about the rehab. You know, they just kind of said
glossed over that. They glossed over probably the biggest thing that happened to a musician in the 80s outside of death.
Right. Well, he was dead. He was actually declared dead according to the movie.
Wasn't that. It was the car accident that killed Razzle.
You're right.
They completely glossed over that. Yeah, completely.
Was that supposed to be...
I mean, it was like a 30-second side note.
Right. Well, and it was... I think there was an attempt to make that deep, too, because after the accident, it like cuts, fades to black, and then it comes back. It's on the wrecked car. Vince is waking up, and he looks down, and Razzle is talking to him.
Yeah. About all the is it Christmas or something?
Is it Christmas? Yeah.
Because all the pretty lights.
And then he sees the lights, and he says he sees the lights, and then he looks down, and Razzle's face is all cut up.
Yeah, and covered in blood.
And covered in blood, which it wasn't when he talked.
No.
So there was a missed opportunity there, and looked like there was an attempt.
Yeah.
But there was nothing that... It didn't go anywhere.
No.
What was it that Vince was supposed to be seeing there?
Yeah. And
because it was all in his head, because he was dead.
Yeah.
He died instantly.
Yeah. And even that, it was these huge, well-known stories that are either completely wrong, or they give false information, or they're exaggerated. And this is the kind of shit, I know it's really minor, but this is the kind of shit that really bothers me in movies. In the movie, they say, I forgot how many days he was sentenced to, but he only served 19.
18.
Well, that's wrong. He actually served 15 days. So, I mean, that's the kind of shit that, okay, when you're making a movie, you should probably get that fucking right.
Yeah, because it doesn't affect anything other than just being accurate.
It's just minor stuff. That's the kind of stuff that bothers me.
When I was reading, Wikipedia says 18, though. I don't know if that means anything.
I'm pretty sure I can almost guarantee it was 15 days that he served.
I started when I was looking,
because you're
doing my research.
You're quoting Wikipedia.
I'm just saying.
The authoritative source that is Wikipedia.
I'm just saying.
I'm almost 100% sure that it was 15 days he served.
The movie said 18 and Wikipedia said 18. That's all I can.
Well, apparently they probably did their research off Wikipedia for the movie.
Okay. Possibly, even though they were there, it's sad that they had to do that.
Who was there?
The band.
The band was not involved. They were not there when this movie was being made.
Well, they're producers, and they
are.
They show scenes of them watching.
They were on the set a couple of days, but they weren't there a majority of the time.
I'm sorry. If you're going to make a movie about me, I'm going to be fucking there.
I know. Especially since they don't really have anything else to do.
They're all in different bands, and they have been working on music,
that, but
supposedly.
I would be there.
Oh, yeah, I would be, too.
But yeah, just the whole thing with Razzle, that really bothered me, because that should have been a key moment in the movie.
Right.
And it wasn't.
And really, even the fallout of it was one
scene.
One scene. Yeah.
It was one scene. He walks in, says he just got out of jail.
And and that's when Tommy Lee Nikki Sixx tricks him into snorting heroin.
Yeah, yep.
So
I don't know. It just, like I said before, I thought the acting was really done.
It was okay.
I think it was well done.
We'll say it was standards or slightly above.
I would say, yeah. I thought it was above average. Like I said before, I thought Machine Gun Kelly was not an actor at all.
Right. No. Yeah.
I thought he did really well.
Yeah. I did not know that was him, because that's not what he's listed as in his credits. It must be his real name in the credits.
Yeah. I don't know what his real name is. But yeah, I thought he was pretty good. I like how the each band member's entry into the band is kind of interwoven through
Right.
early on in the movie. I kind of like how they did that. I like how they really tried to focus early on in the movie about, because the thing about that all four of the band members have talked about since the beginning of time or beginning of their band is that how they had this like instant chemistry, and they at least tried to show that in the movie. I don't know how well that scene played out.
I think it seemed kind of forced to me, like not.
But I understood what they were trying to get to there.
Yeah, I guess, but it was like, I get that with the Mick Mars part, because he came in and just kind of like blew that other guitar player away. I don't know how accurate that part was, but
I don't think it was a good. See, they had a different lead singer to start.
Right.
Vince Neil was not their first lead singer,
and they played that. They didn't do that, but they did that other guitar player.
And the lead singer, from everything I had read about him before, was kind of like this more folksy, kind of hippie kind of singer. And they kicked him out of the band. So I think it's what they did was they kind of replaced. They kind of moved roles around.
Right. But I just,
because I think Mick Mars was their first guitar player.
I don't know. I just know that that scene, as far as trying to kind of show the chemistry, Mick Mars kind of came in just fully, at least in the film, fully embracing the attitude that they were looking for the band. Yeah. So, and the guy they got to play Mick Mars, I did like him a lot.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. I didn't like. There's a scene in the movie early on where Tommy Lee and his girlfriend go to a concert, a show by the band London, who Nikki Sixx was their bass player. Yeah. And after the show,
and I kind of mad they didn't show that concert, because apparently a big fight broke up between the band.
Yeah, and that kind of ended London.
Right.
But so in the movie, Tommy Lee and his girlfriend go to this diner, and that's where Tommy Lee sees Nikki Sixx, and he's like, "Oh, I've got posters of you on my wall," and blah blah blah. Complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee had been in bands before, and Nikki Sixx had gone and seen him play, and that's how they knew each other, through bands that they had been in.
Right.
There wasn't there was no fate. Happens. They just happen to run into each other at a diner.
Yeah.
That's it's all bullshit. But I don't. That's once again, that's one of my issues I have with the movie.
Right. As far as Vince's introduction, from what I read, it's pretty close.
Yes,
because Tommy did recommend him because he went to school with him.
Yep.
He was in that cover band called Candy Crush or Rock Candy.
Yeah, whatever it was.
It was Rock Candy,
which is a terrible name for a band.
Yes, it is.
I did like their
Mick Mars. Shit. If you get what
Mick Mars says, shit band or shit name equals shit band or something, something along those lines.
Yeah, and then he goes, name one popular band with a shit name. He's right.
Yeah.
So
Oingo Boingo, they're a shit band.
They got a couple of great songs. I've got a soft spot in my heart for '80s new wave. So
Husker Du.
Yeah, I can't say I've never actually listened to any Husker Du. So.
Actually, I just recently a friend of mine had recommended to me to watch a video on YouTube. The video is called Before Dookie, and there's actually two parts to it, but it kind of covers the punk through the mid 70s, mid to late 70s through the mid to late 90s.
Okay.
And it was really good, but actually they talk about Husker Du in there, and I'm pretty sure it's the first time I've ever heard Husker Du music. It wasn't too bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
we have to give it a shot.
The
only reason I even know about Husker Du is because of Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Bands that sound like diseases or illnesses. You got the Husker Du.
I would say probably the biggest issue I had with this movie, and I know I'm coming off kind of bashing on this movie, but it's just
I'm trying to be fair, but yeah,
the timeline with Vince Neil's daughter's life.
Okay.
So in real life, hello real life.
Yeah.
She was born in 1991 and died in 1994 or 1995. She was 3 or 4 years old when she died.
By the movie standards, she's like 10.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, she was born in 91 and died in 95. Okay. So, 1991. When's the first time you see her like in the movie?
Like the mid 80s.
Well, yeah, because the night of the car accident, which happened in 1984,
She was pregnant.
his wife was pregnant with her.
Yeah. So why? I didn't even
That
catch that.
that's the problem. As soon as and I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but later on I'm watching it. I'm like, well, hold on a second. No, she was born later than that. And then a couple years later, no, the next year. I'm sorry, it was the next year because they were getting ready for the Theater of Pain tour. So
Right,
that was
85.
85.
Right.
She's what, 2 or 3 years old?
Yeah, I mean, she's not an infant anymore, but she's approaching toddler.
No, because she's crying for mommy. She's talking.
Right.
I mean, so she's
at least 1.5, 2 years.
Yeah,
old.
Exactly. That's
2 years.
That's kind of a jump,
Considering
from
84.
and the accident was, I want to say, like fall of 84, and it was at least mid 84 was the accident.
Yeah.
No, it was late. I want to say it was like October, November 84.
Right.
And then the tour started in 85. So there's no way in hell his daughter could be even a year and a half old, 2 years old.
Yeah, see, I didn't even pick up on that.
But then, so then in 87, when Nikki Sixx overdoses, looks like she's what, 3 or 4? Because she comes into the room when he's watching on TV.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
And then it shows.
What's wrong, Daddy? Yeah.
So she looks like she's at least 3 or 4 then. And then looks like she's at least 7 or 8 when she dies in 95.
I just assumed she was 10 because that would have been right. 94, 9.
Why?
It's
It's this like, okay, so we're making a movie that has zero depth to it. It's all just like,
it's all about crazy rock.
It's all about drugs. It's not even about the rock and roll. It's just sex and drugs.
Yeah, pretty
much.
much.
So let's create some depth to the movie with something that should have been a big part of the movie, was his daughter's illness and the effects that, because it was 91 when she was born. So from I don't know when she got sick in that 4-year period, but it obviously played a role in Vince Neil's life.
Right.
And his relationship with the other band. I don't know if it changed that or how it played into that dynamic.
Right.
I would expect that to be explored in a movie like this.
And they totally left out his solo career.
Exactly.
Which was that time period.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they kicked him out of the band, he was...
or fired or whatever.
Because they go back and forth.
Vince Neil says he was fired. Nikki Sixx said he quit.
And then there's another interview where Vince says it was a heated incident, and I may have been fired and then quit, or I quit and then fired. Yeah. It's hard to say because it was such a heated environment.
Yeah.
So they've admitted that even in their minds, there's some confusion there. So, which is fair, But they completely left that part out too. And they could have put the Pamela Anderson in there, but it just would have been more fluff to the emptiness of the film,
no, but I mean, I would think that they probably, I don't know if it was, I'm assuming that Tommy Lee probably was like, no, you can't put any of that in there. I'm assuming that's why Pam is not.
Why would we need to? There's a video of their relationship as it is. We
Touché.
can watch it,
Touché. But it would have been interesting to see, because Tommy Lee was kind of played off, at least early on in the movie, like the normal one. He was
near the end, even towards the end, he was like he was still kind of like the suburban kid who just happened
to fall into this crazy life,
right? Yeah.
But then sometimes it's like there's a scene where he's like, hey, you want to know what my day is like? And he like runs you through all these crazy scenarios.
It's like in first person.
Yeah, it's
it always ends with Doc chaining him to the bed.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's over exaggerated to a certain level.
To a degree, I'm sure. But that's, I mean, if you believe the stories, that was pretty much how they were.
Yeah, until they
weren't.
Except for the night when they ran into to Henry Rollins and
Black Flag.
Yeah, it was just, I think it was just Henry Rollins and the rest of the Misfits.
Oh, I thought Black Flag was there too.
No, it was Glenn Danzig and Henry Rollins. So
and they got spooked.
Oh yeah, they chased him down the damn street, trying to beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, they left that part out too.
And if you look up pictures of Henry Rollins and Glenn Danzig in like the early 80s.
This would have been about 81, 82.
I'm a pretty big guy. I'm pretty sure I would have fucking ran from them also.
Yeah. Well, Henry Rollins is a lunatic.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I don't know if you've ever seen any like footage.
early Glenn Danzig. I mean, he was kind of scrawny, but now he's kind of buff.
Well, he was bigger then also, but yeah, go back and watch some like old footage of Black Flag concerts from like the early '80s, late '70s.
Yeah,
that shit was crazy.
I bet,
absolutely crazy. Yeah, two guys I wouldn't mess with.
No, there's a lot of people I wouldn't mess with, but those two were on the list, I'm sure.
Now, what was your like one moment that really kind of stood out? Was there anything that really stood out in the movie to you?
Not really. I
kind of felt similar.
I mean, like I said, the scenes with the daughter, which are less powerful now, knowing that you're right, the timeline doesn't work. But just those scenes by themselves, that little girl was for a kid actor.
Oh, she did a good job.
She was killing it.
Yeah, she did a good job.
Because I truly believe she was in pain and she was afraid. She
didn't want to die.
And I think that whoever the actor was playing Vince Neil, that brought some quality acting out of him too.
Yeah.
But overall, no. I mean, it didn't have any more depth than a VH1 Behind the Music.
I felt like it had less depth than that.
Maybe, but that's how I felt like when I was watching.
At least Behind the Music would have went into detail about like the car accident, things like that.
True, a little bit more. Anyway.
Yeah, the thing I did find kind of interesting, and I didn't realize that at the time when I was watching it, was of the 4 actors that play the band members, only one is from the U.S. 2 are from the UK, and the other one's from Australia.
Oh, and then I'm assuming Machine Gun Kelly is the U.S.
Yes,
the American.
Yeah.
Well, they covered up their accents pretty well.
I thought they did a good job. The only really moment that stood out to me, and I already mentioned it, was kind of their first practice as a band, right, where they get Vince Neil in there. And
I will say this: as far as the movie itself, didn't really have any standout moments, but if they could create a show with that guy playing Mick Mars and just being Mick Mars, I could totally get down with a show like that. I mean, that would be because there's something. I don't know, because he doesn't care at all, but he does. Yeah. He's got. I
like how he plays like the old man, even though he's only 3 years older than any of the other band members.
Well, because he looks older. He always did, and that was kind of the.
And I'm pretty sure whenever Mick Mars lays down, he doesn't always cross his arms across his chest. That's what he did every. I know you can't see me doing this, but he like crosses his arms like he's dead, and every single time he lays down in the movie.
And it's funny because I saw that, I was like. That's so cool. I don't know why. It was like I can see Mick Mars doing that. What little I know of Mick Mars, the real person, but I can totally see him doing that. But that guy playing Mick Mars, and just having a show around him, I could totally go for that.
I will say that I did kind of cringe at the opening scene of the movie. I'm gonna kind of leave it at that and not go into detail about it.
The squirting.
Yeah, that was that was a little uncalled for. I don't know. It just.
I guess with a movie like this about these particular guys, you're gonna have to go to a raunchy area.
That's like above though. That doesn't. I don't know. It's just.
Now here's the thing: if it happened, okay. If it didn't happen, then it's strictly gratuitous and had
I'm sure it might have happened at some point, but I don't know.
Not like that. It's just they did also glossed over the fact that Nikki slept with one of Tommy's girlfriends. That was never touched on
in the movie. Yeah, they did.
Tommy never found out about that. Yeah, Doc says something to him. He's like, "Dude, Tommy's girlfriend, really?"
Yeah.
And then they go, but Tommy never knows about it.
Oh no,
because that's the chick he punches.
Yeah. Yep.
So fiance, and that's because right after he finds out that they're engaged, and it's like, I don't know, it just seems weird. It was stopping it where they did because Tommy ended up leaving the band in '99 or '97, shortly after.
And the thing at the end where it says, "And they played together for 20 more years," isn't true.
No, they
broke up after that.
Well, no, they didn't really break up. Tommy
left, so they didn't all play together for the next 20 years.
But Tommy was only gone for like 4 years. But I guess Vince was only gone for 4 years too.
Yeah, so Tommy didn't come back to what, 2004, 2005, something like that.
2004, yeah. So
I guess they played together for
16 more years.
No, because their last concert together was 2015. So it's been 11 years.
No,
Yes.
because if you take
11 plus 4 is 15.
if you take the Tommy Lee section out, they get back together in 97 to 20.
Yeah, how can you say that though? How can you say they played together for the next 20 years when they all weren't together? That's a stretch.
How did a 5-year-old girl look like she's 10?
Yeah.
I don't know. How did a girl born in 1991 be alive in 1985? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. Most people who watch it are going to just come across it on Netflix, know who Motley Crue is, go, oh my God, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then move on and not even give a shit.
Yeah.
We grew up in that time period. We're rock enthusiasts, so we're going to dig a little deeper.
And you're right, because if you go on IMDb and read a lot of the fan reviews, a lot of them love it. If you read the critics review of it, they all just like torch them.
It doesn't have a very high Rotten Tomatoes score. It's like 6 something.
Really?
Yeah, which isn't super low, but it's not great.
Yeah. So I guess if you rated the movie out of 10,
just by itself, or as a Motley Crue, as a story about Motley Crue,
this movie, what would you rate this movie out of 10?
All right, I'm gonna give it 2 scores. I just have to. Just as a regular movie about a band and debauchery, I'm gonna give it like a 7.
Okay.
As a movie that's supposed to be depicting fact and about this particular band,
and that's how
I'm gonna give it like 3.5.
Yeah, I give it a 2.5 is what I give it out of 10, which is pretty rough.
Yeah, I said 3.5, but
because I think you can't not count in the fact that it's about Motley Crue and like all these timeline issues and the lack of anything real in the movie,
right?
Omissions, exaggerations, which you're always going to have them in movies, especially these kind of movies. Even like if you go and look at recent music biopics, whether it's
Bohemian Rhapsody or Rocket Man.
Yeah, Rocket Man.
I haven't seen.
I haven't seen Rocket Man yet, but the reviews on it have been fantastic.
Yeah.
If you look at Miles Ahead, which is from 2017,
I haven't seen
it's
that
got
yet.
Don Cheadle in it. He plays Miles Davis.
Ooh, yeah,
it's supposed to be a great movie.
Yeah.
Get On Up, which is of course starring Chadwick Boseman because he plays in every biopic. It seems like.
With James Brown?
Yeah, it's a James Brown one because he's been Jackie Robinson. He's been Thurgood Marshall.
James Brown. That might be it.
Black Panther.
Well, that's not a historical figure.
Yes, it is.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry, I didn't realize the MCU. Did the snap kind of break the laws of reality, and now we're living in the MCU?
But even if you look at I know you haven't seen it, but The Runaways from 2010 was really good. Even though it's got the one girl from the sparkly vampire movie.
Yeah. I have not.
But she's a terrible actress, but she does a really good job in The Runaways.
Okay.
Love and Mercy, which is that's the movie about Brian Wilson.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Is that the one with Luke Wilson in it?
Maybe.
Okay.
I know it was one.
He doesn't play that character. I don't think he does. I remember it came out like 2013.
2015 is when Love and Mercy came out.
Yeah, I think that Luke Wilson's in that.
Straight Outta Compton was a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
That came out in 2015.
On my list here.
Behind the Candelabra.
Didn't see it because I'm not a big fan of
Liberace.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching it just because. It's got 2 high caliber actors in it.
It does, and I've heard, and it's gotten great reviews.
Has it?
And of course, I can't ever.
Backbeat.
I was just getting ready to talk about Backbeat. Backbeat is not a recent movie, but as far as like these musical movies go, Backbeat was probably, even as much as I like the movie The Doors, that had a lot of timeline issues in it of itself, which I didn't know. I didn't really know about it at the time. The movie came out 91 or something like that.
The Doors, yeah 91. Yeah.
Backbeat is a fantastic movie, and I've been waiting. I don't think it's available on iTunes or anything like that.
I don't know.
I probably just have to break down and buy it.
Probably.
It's just and it's a movie about like the early days of the Beatles and
the Pete Best and the Stuart
Sutcliffe's relationship with John Lennon is was basically what the.
There's another movie out about that time period. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's called Nowhere Boy.
Okay.
I haven't watched it yet either. That's probably another one we should probably put on our list of, not for the show, but just for ourselves.
And what is that about? It's about
John Lennon early days, like teenage leading up to
really?
the Backbeat story. Yeah.
Okay.
At least that's what I got from it, but it looks interesting.
Yeah. Stephen Dorff plays Stuart Sutcliffe.
Yeah. There's La Bamba about
Richie
Valens.
I was primarily looking like recent ones.
I know, but overall, I mean, these biopics go back a ways, and
they do. But I feel like
really
primarily
there's some really good ones in the past. The Buddy Holly one with Gary Busey.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it, but apparently there's an Elvis movie that John Carpenter directed with Kurt Russell.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, I think overall there is a history and a right and wrong way to do it, and I don't think Dirt got it right.
No, because like the ones I was trying to mention, the ones I was mentioning, obviously I couldn't really say. I haven't seen Rocket Man. I haven't seen Love and Mercy. I think I've seen all the rest of them that I mentioned, and it just those movies. Now, granted, they were all like theatrical releases. I guess Behind the Candelabra wasn't. That was a HBO movie,
right?
But I don't know.
And Dirt, I think, was intended to be a theatrical release.
So Dirt had been in the works for like a decade, and there have been multiple people attached to it.
And the director was attached. The one who directed it signed on in 2015. It didn't even come out till 2019. So
it just came out a couple months ago. Yeah. So I don't know if Netflix involvement really changed anything about the movie. I wouldn't think so. I don't think Netflix really gives a shit.
No, I think they just bought it.
Yeah,
bought it and distributed it.
Yeah,
so.
But it just the movies I was talking about, whether it's Straight Outta Compton, Bohemian Rhapsody, whatever, The Runaways. There's large sections of those movies that focus on information that the general public just doesn't know,
right?
Or helps build up and explain the story behind the music, behind the songs, what led them to what situations in their lives led them to be what they were.
Right.
And that's not what
Dirt does.
That's not what the Dirt does. Yeah. Other than the fact of the Dirt does go into a little bit the relationship between Nikki Sixx and his mother.
Right. And how that informed him as a person.
Yeah. And there's another scene in the movie, later in the movie, in the Dirt, where Doc, it's around Christmas because there's a Christmas tree.
This leads
it's
right
got
up
a Christmas tree in it. It should be a Christmas movie, right, Ian?
Well, they were almost called this the band Christmas.
Yeah, touche.
So it is a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie. Anyway, so Doc brings Nikki Sixx's mother out.
Estranged mother.
Yeah, estranged, to meet him. Complete bullshit. Doc never actually met him.
And that was in the movie. That's what kind of led him to his overdose because he ended up in that heroin den.
Yeah, and actually,
after that,
isn't that when they fired Doc in the movie?
He fired Doc on that.
Which that scene. That's not at all why Doc got fired.
I know, because he got fired after after Vince came back with his own manager.
Yeah,
and there was some conflict between that.
Yeah,
so that would have been years later.
Once again, why?
Well, some of that stuff I can see truncating, like the Doc and the other guy, blending those into one character. That's okay.
Why create this imaginary scenario that has it's just trying to make up bullshit in the movie? I want to say, they're trying to build up something because there was just nothing else to build up. When there was, I don't know.
That's the thing. A band like them, they're notorious for their behind the stage antics. If their story is so compelling, why do they have to change so much of it?
Yeah,
I guess that's the real question you have to ask yourself in the end. Whereas Bohemian Rhapsody tones down all that to a degree because you don't need it. You don't need all that because there's more emotional depth and more character in these people, and maybe that's it.
But
maybe Motley Crue is the quintessential shallow. I mean, their whole persona.
But that's the whole
thing. They're almost as bad as Kiss.
You could take this movie, take the name Motley Crue out of it, take the band members' names out of it, and you could probably put that into any other band in the 80s. That could have been Rat. That could have been anyone.
True.
I'm sure had all those same experiences, did all the same shit, had all the same craziness.
But there's a certain urban myth around Motley Crue, the way there is around for the 80s, the way there is around Zeppelin in the 70s.
Yeah. There's even a scene in the movie, actually I think it's the Ozzy scene, where they're all like laying next to the pool and someone makes a comment about the groupies, and they're like, "Hey, I wonder if don't you ever worry about and wonder if all these groupies?"
Mick Mars says that he goes, "You're just they probably sleep with every band that comes through town," and they're like, they make a joke like, "Yeah, we're all Pussy Brothers or something like. I don't remember what the word they use, but we're all joins all the bands as brothers.
Yeah, and it's just, and that's what I'm saying though. Is I'm sure
Herpes does that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I wouldn't say every band in the '80s, but a lot of those really popular bands. Guns N' Roses probably has a very similar story, if not crazier.
Maybe crazier. I mean, at least Axl.
And the funny thing is, I will say that in the scene where Nikki Sixx overdoses, Slash is laying on the couch. Steven Adler was laying.
I thought that's what that was. I didn't want to guess.
They were both there when he overdosed.
Were they?
Yeah, because Steven Adler talked about it before.
Yeah. I wondered why they showed those two guys. I'm like, and I even thought, I was like, that guy looks a lot kind of like Slash. I wonder if that's who that's supposed to be.
And then,
but I didn't know that they were
as
together.
the camera panned across, you could see, Steven Adler was sitting against the wall on the right hand side.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, I suspected that, but I didn't know that for a fact, so I didn't want to say anything and be stupid.
Yeah, but I know Steven Adler was there because, like I said, I've seen him talk about it a couple of times. I'm pretty sure Slash was there also when it happened.
Huh.
I don't know. It's
and then we all know they all had heroin issues. So.
Well, of course. Well, Steven Adler ended up having a stroke and everything else from all of his drug use.
Yeah.
Poor bastard.
Yeah.
He was a hell of a drummer, man. He was probably my favorite drummer of the 80s.
I don't know. I don't really know if I have an 80s drummer.
No?
I'd have to think about it.
Do you know what the last thing that Steven Adler worked on with Guns N' Roses was?
Appetite for Destruction?
No, because he was on Lies also.
Oh. Well, then Lies.
It wasn't.
I don't know. What was the last thing he worked on?
Sympathy for the Devil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was the drummer in that song.
Huh.
Before and
that was post Use Your Illusion.
No, that's pre-Use Your Illusion.
Well,
when they recorded that.
Oh, when they recorded it. Yeah. I'm just thinking the first time I heard it was on the Interview with Vampire.
Yeah, well, that's when it got popular. But.
Right, because that was 94.
Yeah.
So. Okay, fair enough.
But which, by the way, is
for a cover song, it's one of the best.
It's one of the best cover songs.
It's one of those occasions where it potentially rivals the original.
There's a couple of those though.
There are a few, but not a lot.
All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix. Come on,
yeah, that's better than Dylan's version.
So much better.
And I would even say,
but I would say the Rolling Stones version, original version of "Sympathy for the Devil" is still a really good song.
It's still exactly, but I guess that's an example of a really, really good song being slightly topped on by a different band.
But Guns N' Roses was good for that, though.
They were
Live and Let Die,
Knocking on Heaven's
Door. Yeah.
So, another example would be Joe Cocker's version of "With a Little Help from My Friends."
Yeah. Which I didn't like the Beatles version.
It's okay, but Joe Cocker his version.
Out of the water.
Yeah, his version is way better.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. It's I think it would have been. I don't know how they could have done it differently, other than making things more accurate.
I think maybe I blame a lot of it on the director.
Oh, I'm sure, because he's the one in control ultimately.
Yeah. He didn't write the script or anything like that, and the band did okay the script.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
As a director, I don't know. I think I'd have to go back and say, look, we got to do something different. We got to change the script, add something else in here.
Well, if I was the director, I would have come in and sat down with everybody and say, okay, how much of this is true and how much of this is false? Because when I go into this movie, making this film, am I making a parody of this, or am I doing an actual biopic? Because that's where this movie kind of lies. It's some of it does border on parody.
Yeah,
especially with the breaking of the fourth wall and stuff like that. So, that is, if I was the director, or at least any quality director would come in and say, okay, we need to figure out what this is supposed to be, because
I need to know how
this is going to be analyzed. Where I need marks. I want you to highlight everything that's not right, that didn't actually happen or didn't happen the way it didn't.
But like I said, something as simple as the timeline for the daughter.
Right.
How do you film that? And you're like, okay, so she's pregnant here, and then 8 months later she's 2 years old. How the fuck does that work?
Right.
How do you make a movie like that?
Well, I guess.
And then a year later she's 4.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. Like I said, I didn't know that. I'm honestly glad I didn't know that going into the movie, because I would have turned it off at that point.
Yeah. But like I said, the first time I watched it, I didn't even notice any of that.
Yeah.
I just watched this night before last with Mandy, and I'm sitting there watching it, and I was like, well, holy shit, how the hell does that work?
Right. Yeah, no, like I said, I didn't pick up on the age difference in the film, but I also didn't realize that the film has her born nearly 6 years before she's actually born.
Exactly.
So, yeah. If, like I said, if I had known any of that or gone into that, watched that for the first time, and picked up on any of that, I would have been like, no, I'm going to turn this off. I can't do this. Because that's just pushing too many boundaries. It's pushing reality too far as I'm concerned.
So the crash happened December 8th, 1984.
Okay.
When did and
so that means she would have been born. She was like ready to burst. So the kid would have been born, say January of '85, by the movie timeline.
Well, look at it this way. So Theater of Pain was released June 21st, 1985.
Right.
In that scene where Vince is sitting there and his wife brings Skylar in before the concert and everything. That at that time is when Vince tells Doc that Nikki had changed the title of the album the night before. So that had to have been before June of '85.
Well, if that was accurate, because we don't even know if that tattoo situation was accurate.
But that's what I'm saying.
Because they ended up naming a live album that title, Entertainment Death or something, whatever it was called.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is if you go by the movie, you're looking at December when the accident happens to, it's got to be May.
Right. So the kid's 5 months old, theoretically, at best.
At best, 5 months old.
Right.
Yeah, it's if you're a director, how do you do that?
You do it because you're focusing more on getting the scenes with the tits right.
Yes.
And the scenes with the drugs right, and you're focusing on getting,
But that's what I'm
making
saying.
sure that this scene over here, the look of this scene, you're not focusing on the depth
content.
of the story. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. I think if you get it doesn't have to be an established director. Right. Get somebody that's actually directed some real movies,
right?
To do it.
Well, I mean,
not Jackass. I'm sorry,
those aren't movies.
Those aren't movies.
Right. You get the same problem, and not to the same degree because I think he's potentially a better director anyway. But I can't remember his name. The guy who directed the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street was the only thing he had directed previous to that was music videos.
Yeah,
it shows.
Yeah,
because the flashy scenes look great, but when there's depth involved, it's a struggle. When they're trying to progress the story along, it's just not working.
Yeah.
So you need to. I guess there are times where sometimes a director can come out of commercials and music videos and be awesome. And I'm sure I know of several directors who did that, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
David Fincher keeps coming to mind. I don't know what he did. I think he did music videos first.
Maybe.
And he's one of the great directors of our time. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just it just shows that this guy is not a movie director, a film director.
But I would leave it at this and just say, look, if you want to see a fun, entertaining movie, it is that.
Yeah. Just don't go in thinking about it as reality.
It's a lot better than the Rock Band movie that Mark Wahlberg did. I would.
And honestly, that you could argue that had more depth.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. But anyway, anything else to add, Ian? That was all I had.
No, that's it's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, it's not really costing anything.
It's not
going to
cost anything to watch.
Just an hour and 48 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
But so any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter or Facebook, Podbean, iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes.
6 stars.
Or 6 stars according to Ian.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got, man. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some downside. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit. about it. Who down for some bitches who showing their bodies? Swear to God, nigga, this Molly got me up and rolling. These bodies of water. Bring that shit in bottles.